Dear Bangtan News today, before we start, don't forget to press the like, follow, and activate the notification bell. Because what you're about to hear today is one of the most beautiful, dramatic, and moving moments in the journey of two people who have gone through so much together. Breathe in slowly, as this story begins gently, then ascends, and finally explodes into something that feels like a slice of real-life drama. On a quiet afternoon on the shores of a Swiss lake, the camera captured the silhouettes of two slowly walking figures. The light of the sun hits the surface of the water, making the scene look like a movie scene. Jungkook walked a little ahead, but looked back several times. As if Jimin was still following him, there was calmness on their faces. But there is also something that is difficult to explain. As if the camera is not just recording two global artists, but two hearts that understand each other without the need for words. At that moment, the world seemed to stop moving. Even the wind seemed to slow down so as not to disturb the precious silence. Their every move feels like part of a soundtrack of life. We ask ourselves, what do they really feel? Why does it look so close? Episodes 3 and 4 feel much deeper than before. Not just a trip, not just an entertainment event, but pieces of a long relationship that has grown over the years, and now shows a softer and more sincere side. But remember, this is just a beautiful interpretation of the moments captured on camera. Not a fact. But that's precisely why everything is alive. When Jimin approaches Jungkook to laugh at something that only the two of them understand, the atmosphere instantly changes. There is a warm aura that makes the audience curious. We want to know what they say, how they feel, and why they seem comfortable with each other. Jimin smiled with narrowed eyes. Jungkook nodded slowly with a hard-to-read expression. There's pride there. They are happy. And there's a sense of security that's rarely seen on camera. The scene was too beautiful. Too cinematic. To the point that it feels like a romantic drama of the highest quality. This is where you have to keep your eye out, buddy. Because the deeper we get into the narrative, the harder it is to get out. A few seconds after that moment, the camera captures a simple scene. Jimin was silent, staring at Jungkook from the side, as if reading something unspoken. Jungkook noticed, then turned his head with a small smile, just like that. But it's the little moments that make the audience last longer. No dramatic music. There is no long dialogue. There are no made-up scenes, just two people standing in their own world, and that's the part where the audience usually starts asking, this is real life, isn't it? We all know these are just beautiful moments that happen to be recorded. But its beauty makes us want to believe there is something deeper. Moving to the central part, the atmosphere changes to a more intense one. Not a dramatic intensity, but an intensity that invites curiosity. They sat side by side, talking about simple things. But their expressions said so much more than words. The quiet sound of water makes the atmosphere even softer. The way their bodies leaned slightly towards each other, the way their gazes met, it all felt like a movie scene produced on a very expensive set. It's not about rumors. It's not about ships or speculation. It's about human relationships. The relationship of two people who have been through a lot, and now exudes a very natural comfort. The narrative begins to build emotional tension. As viewers, we need to keep watching. As if something was unfinished. There are parts that are still hidden. Something tells us to hold on. Then the moment came. Jungkook said something in a soft voice. We do not hear clearly what he says. But we can see Jimin's expression change. Jimin turned his head, laughed a little, and replied. Jungkook smiled wider. What matters is not the sentence, what matters is the way. Natural. Warm. Honestly. And what it is, the camera filmed them from an almost intimate distance. Makes us feel like we are opening the first page of a romantic novel that was not planned, but created just like that. Friends of Bangtan News today, do not slide this video. Because what happens after this is a climax that leaves many people speechless. The afternoon light turns a golden color. The sky looks perfect. And they walked side by side without much of a word. The distance between them shrinks, their steps become harmonious. At this point, the audience usually holds their breath. Because when the wind carries their voices to the microphone, and when their eyes meet before the camera slowly moves away, time feels stopped. nothing superfluous. No drama. It's just two people appreciating each other, and that energy feels right up to the screen. Finally, the camera captures the closing moment. Jimin laughed. Jungkook pushed his shoulder slowly. The world is moving again. The camera stops recording, but the connection feels like it's still there even though the screen is already dark. Dude, if you've come this far, it means you're really diving into this story. So before proceeding to the final part, don't forget to leave a like, follow, comment, and share this video. Not only does it help the algorithm, but it also helps so that beautiful moments like this can continue to be enjoyed by many people, and it turns out, just when we thought it was over, there are still other layers that are slowly emerging. The camera follows their increasingly calm steps. It's as if they're enjoying a peace they rarely get. Their movements look like two people who have long understood each other's rhythm. No need for coordination. No need for words. It just flows. Jimin walked a little faster, then turned his head in his typical curious style. That look could only be understood by Jungkook. A warm look as if to say, "You're still here, right?" Jungkook answered with a small smile. A smile from a person who is already used to keeping people next to him. That little moment may seem simple, but for those who followed the journey of both over the years, it was an emotional moment that felt very deep. The silence between them was not an awkward silence. It is precisely the silence full of meaning, the silence of two people who knew there was a camera, but chose to remain true to themselves. Then the wind moved slowly, hitting Jimin's hair. Jungkook chuckled. Jimin nudged her lightly. A simple gesture, but it is he who brings the whole story to life. This is the authenticity that cannot be made up. As the light began to dim, they stopped for a moment staring at the horizon. Jimin closed his arms as the air got colder. And Jungkook, without saying much, touched her shoulder briefly as a form of attention. Not a romantic scene, not something superfluous, just empathy, only sincere concern. After that, they walked back at a slower pace. The camera moves away, showing their tiny silhouettes amid the vastness of the Swiss landscape. But even though it looks small, the aura of their closeness actually feels bigger.